Hello, it's Father Rich back with you here in the vestibule of Our Lady of Peace Church. I'm here before one of our stained glass windows, our beautiful windows in the church vestibule, the one depicting our Blessed Mother. And stained glass windows are a major focus of our next masterpiece. It's the Chapel of Sainte-Chapelle in Paris, France, just a few minute walk from the Notre Dame Cathedral. And the main, it's built and was built by St. Louis IX. We'll come back to him in a second, but to house the crown of thorns, a significant relic there in Paris in the 13th century. And it was built in that Gothic style, as we mentioned with the Notre Dame Cathedral a few pieces ago, in order to allow for beautiful stained glass windows. I think there's 14 stained glass windows throughout it. You should check it out online if you haven't seen it before. Absolutely gorgeous in the way that it allows light to penetrate the area, and obviously that was a main goal of the stained glass window. St. Louis IX was in the 13th century, a great monarch of France. As the Holy Land and the area around the Holy Land in Israel was being controlled by the Muslims, he really hoped to make France a Catholic headquarters, so to speak, and a place of pilgrimage. So in bringing the crown of thorns to be housed there in France was one way to do it. So the crown had made its way from Israel to Constantinople, first centuries, then eventually to Venice, and then was brought to Paris and the chapel of eventually Sainte-Chapelle that he had built for it. The crown of thorns is one of the relics of the Passion, and certainly this was substantial. The crown of thorns actually got a lot of notoriety back in the fire at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris in 2019. And they made a big deal about being able to save the crown, and that was a very significant thing for them. It had been housed at Notre Dame since 1801, after the French Revolution. So it had actually been housed in Sainte-Chapelle for 500 years, the 13th century to the 18th century. Then they placed it in the library or somewhere that it could be protected during the Revolution. When the Revolution was ended, the Concordat was signed, they moved the crown to Notre Dame in 1801. So it's been there ever since. It's brought out every Good Friday. I was blessed back in the Easter Holy Week of 2001 to actually be there on Good Friday to venerate the crown up close when they allow the public to wait in line to do that. So really a blessing to have been able to do that. Otherwise, it's housed in one of the chapels where you can kind of see it in the reliquary from a little further distance. But this masterpiece really emphasizes the stained glass windows, the Gothic style of that 13th century. They actually end up and mention several other churches throughout the world that have these similar kind of beautiful stained glass windows. The author suggests other must-see windows must include the stained glass in the cathedrals in Bourges, in Strasbourg, Cologne, Siena, Canterbury, and York Minster. And then he goes on to talk about in our own day, some of the stained glass and people that are making them. He says pre-Raphaelite artist Edward Burne-Jones and William Morris, who sparked a 19th century revival of the art form. Other luminaries in this art form include Louis Comfort, Tiffany, Christopher Wall, Henry Matisse, and Marc Chagall. The most acclaimed of the modern stained glass artists being Marc Chagall, who brought his own creation, the incandescent stained glass windows, in a synagogue in Jerusalem, at the Art Institute of Chicago, being held there now, in the Union Church in upstate New York and other locations. So stained glass window has been around since right around Sainte-Chapelle, the Gothic style of the 13th century till now. That is our masterpiece number 6. Again, takes us back to 1248 AD. And with St. Louis and his story, we look forward to our next one, the Scrovini Chapel frescoes of the 14th century. That'll be our next masterpiece. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day. God bless.